This session we are looking at Canto 28, the sowers of dissension or schism. These are the people who cut or split asunder people or families or countries, and hence are going to be getting the contrapposto of that happening in their own bodies. So, ninth Bogi is devoted to the sowers of scandal and schism, while commentator Natalino Sapigno and others take the two terms as roughly synonymous, not interpreting schism in a specifically religious significance. Anna Maria Cervacci Leonardi defines scandalo as referring to civil discord and schisma as referring to religious discord. In other words, in the overall category, sowers of discord, there are two subcategories, sowers of civil disorder and sowers of religious discord. Ninth Bogi contains political and religious figures who span history from antiquity to Dante's time. Dante views these souls as having fostered schism or division within the body politic, church, or of the state. Given the scoring materia, Inferno 28 ranks high in the infernal lexicography of body parts. I've known that. The category of body parts in Inferno, according to usage per canto, compiled by Grace della Molini, Inferno 28 ranks second after Inferno 25. Inferno 28, the narrator compiles a tally of 41 body parts as compared to 63 in Inferno 25, which is the champion apparently. Souls in Inferno 28 are gruesomely mutilated by devils, thus accounting for the tally of body parts. Wounds are healed and then reopened by the devils, the internal sadistic counterpoint. Language has a clinical quality, as though the mutilations are operations taking place in a crowded, obscene hospital. The description of the mutilations isn't upon Mohammed, which is Mohammed, by the way, should call now, possesses a surprisingly anatomic precision with respect to the contents from the abdomen, chin to anus. With that introduction, now we will proceed into the canto. Who could, even in the simplest kind of prose, describe in full the scene of blood and wounds that I saw now, no matter how hard he tried? Certainly any tongue would have to fail. Man's memory and man's vocabulary are not enough to comprehend such pain. If one could bring together all the wounded who once upon the fateful soil of Puglia breathed for their lifeblood spilled by the Romans, spilled again in the long years of war, ended in the great spoils of the golden rings, as Livy's history tells, but does not err, pile them to one's fell blows when they stood up against the great Robert Guiscard, and with those whose bones are still in heaps. At Soprano, there where every Puglian turned traitor had those from La Casio, where old Alardo conquered weaponless, all these maimed with limbs lopped off or pierced, brought together, the scene would be nothing compared with the foul ninth Bogi's bloody sight. Now, Hollander's comment on this part of Canto is as follows. This elliptical version of a simile, so rich in its catalog of the horrors of war, involves 4 battles or series of battles, 2 of them ancient, 2 modern, roughly as follows. 500 BC, that is the Trojans triumph in the south and central Italy. At 216, Romans are defeated by the Carthaginians in Cannae. 1170, thereabouts, Robert Guiscard's Normans defeat the Saracens. 1266 and 1268, Manfred and Caradon are defeated by Charles of Anjou. These series of military actions, the Roman and or imperial side first wins, then loses disastrously. The intrinsic view of history here is more chaotic than directed. Absent is Dante's more optimistic view of history, unfolding as a Roman and Christian manifestation. The spirit moving through history is an appointed goal. If this sounds like Hegel, it's meant to. And we might further reflect winning and losing battles has little to do one's final destination, God's plan. He is in limbo. Robert Guiscard wins, is in heaven. Manfred loses and is on his way to heaven. He's in purgatory. This image suggesting layers of excavated battlefields, each containing vast areas of wounded soldiers holding out their mutilated limbs, gives us some sense of Dante's view, the end results of war, shared human butchery. Bosco Ringo suggests that this bulgi brings into mind the image of a huge slaughterhouse. Now onward into Canto. No wine cask, this stave or cant bar sprung, was ever split the way I saw someone ripped open from his chin to where we fart. Between his legs, his guts spilled out, with the heart and other vital parts, the dirty sack that turns to shit, whatever the mouth gulps down. While I stood staring into his misery, he looked at me. With both hands, he opened his chest and see how I tear myself. See how Mohammed is deformed and torn. In front of me, in weeping, alley walks, his face cleft from his chin up to the crown. The souls that you see passing in this ditch are all sowers and scandal and schism in life. So in death, you see them torn asunder. And here you see Shadow Burke's transformation of that into modern day Los Angeles. Dante would have been well aware of the Dominican's rate. The souls are sliced by a devil as they process around the circumference of the circle of hell, calling to mind crude imitation of a penitential procession. Just when they are healing, you reach the devil again, their wounds are reopened. It suggests ongoing nature of their sin. Schisms are not the work of a day. They require perseverance in malice. All punished here are described by this verse as verse 35. Scandal, in a sense, means a promulgated doctrine that leads others to stumble and lose their way to the truth. Thus, all here either cause schism in others or themselves lead schismatic groups. First three religious, Mohammed, Ali, and Fra Ocina. Last five political, Era de Medicina, Malatestino, Curio, Mosca, Bertrand de Born. And here we see Hunt Emerson's little cartoon about this area. Behold the sowers of discord, people who cause splits in families, partnerships, politics, rock groups, religions, and they are themselves split retribution. The human shapes of the sinners, the ninth bulgi, are mutilated in ways that represent the mutilation of the body politic, corporate body of the state or institution that they do not harm. They're guilty of rendering that corporate unity should have been kept whole. Again, we find here the principle of the literalized metaphor discussed in commentary on Inferno 3. As the schismatics tore asunder the fabric of the body politic and considered the old man Crete in Inferno 14 is another literalizing of the metaphor of the body politic. So they themselves now are literally torn asunder. Never does Dante demonstrate more clearly the way in which the punishment is a crime. Devil stands back there, trims us all in this cruel way. Each one, this mob, receives a new blade of the devil's sword. Each time we make one round of this sad road, because the wounds are all healed up again by the time each one presents himself once more. But who are you there, gawking from the bridge, trying to put off perhaps fulfillment, the sentence passed on you when you confessed? Death does not have him yet. He is not here to suffer for his guilt, my master answered, but that he may have full experience. I who am dead must lead him through this hell, around, down to the very bottom. This is as true as my presence speaking. More than 100, that ditch stopped short to look at me. They had heard his words, getting in their stupor what they suffered. You will behold the sun, perhaps quite soon. Tell Fra Docino that unless he wants to follow me here quick, he better stock up on food, or else the blinding snows will give the Navarsi their victory. Conquest not won easily otherwise. With the heel of one foot raised to take a step, Mohammed said these words to me, then stretched out down his foot. But here we see an illustration, imagined by Gustave Doré, of this Bulgin. Virgil speaks with a sort of respect of Mohammed. He answers his questions truthfully and straightforwardly. The souls seem more amazed at Dante. He is at them, amazed that he has the possibility of returning to the land of the living. But unlike the other souls, wanted news of friends or relatives, or wanted a message sent back, Mohammed, displaying his own division from humanity, only seems eager to send back cruel taunt to a relatively unknown heretic known as Fra Docin. There's no fellow feeling here, just a sort of mocking irony, rubbing it in. His lack of concern for his followers on earth is a final display of broken bonds caused. Hollander says, disabused of his erring view, Muhammad uses the occasion to send a message to his fellow religious schism, Fra Docino. Northerner from Navarra, balancing the southern setting of the opening Canto, Docino Torinelli was ahead from about 1300 of a group known as the Apostolic Brethren. His order had as an aim the restoration of the simplicity of apostolic times the Christian religion. His enemies accused Docino of holding heretical ideas such as a community of goods and women. Not help Docino's cause was accompanied by a beautiful woman, Margaret of Trent, reputed to be his mistress. Pope Clement V preached a crusade against the Brethren, 1305 and 1307, starved out by their enemies in the high country, which they had retreated. Brethren were captured. Margaret and Docino burned at the stake. Just remember that reputedly this journey to hell by Dante took place in 1300. So this is a prophecy of it. Another, with his throat slit, his nose cut off, as far as where the eyebrows start, he only had a single ear to show. Stopped like all the rest to stare in wonder, stepped out from the group and opened up his throat, which ran with red all sides of his wound. Spoke. Oh, you, whom guilt does not condemn. What I have seen in Italy up there, lest undeceived by the similarity, called to mind Terra de Medicina to return to see the gentle plain, declining for Versili and Marcavo, informed the two best citizens of Fano, tell Monsieur Guido and tell Angelino that our foresight here is no deception. Their ship, they shall be hurled bound in a sack and drowned in the water near Catolicia, victims of tyrants' treachery. Now we're back to Hunt Emerson in his commentary, illustration. See that one there? That's Curio. He advised Caesar cross the Rubicon, causing the Republic to split, starting the Civil Wars. For that, he has his own tongue split. That one is Mosca. Mosca! He began a family feud in Florence that's still plaguing Tuscany today. He raised his hands in bloodshed and is now handless and befouled with his own blood, his sin returning to his own head. Did I just say that? Very good. Mine is John D. Sinclair's. He will translate you to English 600 years from now. See that sinner who stuck his nose in other people's business? Demon is the cleaver. He cleaves the sinners who, on being cleft, tramp around their bulge. By the time they get back to the beginning, their cleavings are healed, so they're recloven. You got any more clefty clovage stuff to do? No, I think that's about all. The early commentators are not sure exactly who Terra of Medicina, town between Bologna and Olea, was. That should maybe comfort us, because a lot of times we don't know who these people are. Sometimes it seems that nobody does. Dante and he apparently knew each other. While the nature of his schismatic behavior thus lies in shadow, the fact that he is ensuring remarks refer to political intrigue, seeing the argument as a political rather than a religious schismatic. Hannah refers in his prophecy, which parallels that given by Mohammed, initially to two victims of schism, Guido del Cerro and Angelico de Caragnano, first identified by Quinforto in 1840. Then victimizer Malatestino Malatesta, Lord of Remedy, is referred to as a young mastiff in the last canto, verse 46. Details are not known to any commentators, but apparently Dante knew that these two leaders of the city of Fano, tricked by Malatestino, coming to confer with him at the town of La Catolica. Then his men caught them in their ship on their way, or after they left, and drowned them. Here's another group that we don't know a whole lot about. Between the islands of Cyprus and Mallorca, so great a crime Neptune never witnessed among the deeds, pirates, and Argives. That traitor who sees only with one eye and rules the land, someone with me here, wishes he never fed his eyes upon, have them come to join him in a parley. Then sees to it they do not waste their breath or vows or prayers to escape for Carlos' wind. Deny to him. You want me to bring back those on earth your message? Who is the one sated with bitter sight? Show it to me. Once he grabbed the jaws of a companion standing nearby and squeezed his mouth half open, announcing, "Here he is," and he is mute. This man, in exile, drowned all Caesar's stouts. Gaius Trebonius Curio wishes he had never seen Rimini, a city near which the Rubicon River sent to the Adriatic. Once a Roman tribune under Pompey, Pompey being Julius Caesar's at one point ally, but now at this point enemies, Curio defected to Caesar's side. When the Roman general hesitated to cross the Rubicon, Curio convinced him to march on Rome. At the time, the Rubicon formed the boundary between Gaul and the Roman Republic. Caesar's decision to cross it precipitated the Roman Civil War. Basically, that was because he did not bring their legions into that particular area bounded by the Rubicon. And that was the idea that a Roman army never went into Rome itself, headed by its general. And Curio is Caesar to throw hesitation away and cross the Rubicon. Alatestino, one-eyed, holds Rimini, the city that Curio wishes he had never seen because it was there that he offered the device that condemns him to this punishment. Two men of Fano have no need of prayer to help against tricky winds off of Foscaro's Point, because they will be dead. This man, in exile, drowned all Caesar's doubts and helped him cast the die when he insisted a man prepared hesitates is lost. How helpless and bewildered he is. His tongue hacked off as far down as the throat. This Curio, once so bold and quick to speak, one who had both arms but no hands, raising the gory stumps in the filthy air, so that the blood dripped down and smeared his face, cried, "You, no doubt, also remember Mosca." He said, "Alas, what's done is over with. Sow the seed, discord for the Tuscans, and of the death of all your clan," he said. He, his fresh wound added to his wound, went off like one gone mad from pain. But I remained to watch the multitude, saw a thing that I would be afraid to tell about without more evidence. Mosca de Lambertini died in 1242. It's on the list of famous Florentines, previous generation about whom Dante quizzed Chaco back in Inferno 6. You may remember that. That's been a while since we've been there. He claims responsibility for having created the factional discord that plagued Florence, that caused Dante great personal affliction in the form of his exile. The city's factional discord was believed to have originated in the murder of Buonamonte de Mohammed in 1216, a murder which precipitated by Buonamonte's jilting of a woman of the Amadei family in favor of the Donati. Note here, immediately before the encounter with Jerry de Bello, Inferno 29, a fixation on a family's honor leads to nefarious consequences for the city as a whole. And what this commentary is referring to is what's going to go on in the next canto, where we go talk about vengeance in somewhat more detail. Mosca's sin was to have consulted Amadei take their revenge, not in the form of beating or mutilation, but kill Buonamonte and have done with it. Mosca's argument for murdering Buonamonte is the proverbial, "What's done is at the end," where he indicates the wisdom of resorting full rather than half measures. What's done is done and cannot be undone. That brought to completion, in this case, it act in the murder of Buonamonte gives greater security and the guarantee that your enemy not do you harm further. Ironically, Mosca's counsel intended to avoid further evil repercussions for his faction, brought evil repercussions on the entire Tuscan race for his counsel. What was the seed of evil for the Tuscan? The phrase seed is particularly telling because it draws on the metaphor sown seeds that is built into the sin of his blowjob. These are the sowers of discord. Now we truly see what evil seed these seed sowers have sown. Dante and his peers believe that Juano de Monte's murder in 1216, precipitated by Mosca de Lamberti, unleashed the factional strife that still afflicted the city in Dante's day. In other words, the strife that afflicts Florence, that has cost him dearly in his own life, is for Dante the bitter fruit grown from the seed sown by Mosca de Lamberti. Now, going to continue, he's going to tell us what he can't believe he saw. For I'm not reassured by my own conscience that good companion heartening a man beneath the breastplate of his purity. I saw it, I'm sure. I seem to see it still. Body, no head that moved along, no differently from all the rest. He held his severed head up by its hair, swinging one hand just like a lantern. As he looked at us, he said, "Alas! Of his own self, made himself a light. They were two and one, one and two. How could this be?" Ordained it comes. When he had arrived below a bridge, raised an arm, held the head up high, let it speak to us in its array. Spoke. "Now see the monstrous punishment. You there, still breathing, looking at the dead. See if you find suffering equal mine. And that you may report on me up there. Know that I am Bertrand de Born, one who evilly encouraged the young king, father and son, set against each other. A chapelle, whose wicked instigations is no more than Absalom and David." Of course, that's referring to the biblical story of Absalom and David. Absalom being David's son, who revolted against him and was killed during the revolt. This is Gustave Doré's painting of this scene. Bertrand, Viscount of Hautefort, soldier and poet, famous for his martial verse, was born around 1140 and died around 1212 or 12 to 1215. He accompanied King Richard I of England, known as the Lionheart, son of King Henry II, on a crusade to Palestine. His poetry is echoed in the long and bloody similes in Open Colonel 28. Dante knew and admired Bertrand's poetry. He cites Bertrand de Born as a great poet of arms in one De Vulgare Eloquenti, and praises the troubadour in the Convivio for his liberality. Bertrand de Born abetted the rebellions of the sons of King Henry II against their father. Richard's older brother, Prince Henry, known by contemporaries as the Young King, nearly overthrew his father, Henry II, in 73. Young King died in 1183, before his father, who died in 1189, so never inherited the throne of England. Bertrand wrote a lament on the death of the young king, whose verses are echoed in the opening section of Inferno 28. And here is a little short film, which I hope will not be blocked by YouTube. I don't know, but see, and it's part of a series, so we got mouse and everything, horrible histories. This one is concentrated on Bertrand de Born, and verses that this character is singing in this are the actual verses from his songs. So, here we go.
War provided the inspiration for songs in the Middle Ages as well.
Out now, the latest album from Middle Ages French troubadour Bertrand de Born. Now that's what I call miserable, Volume 3. Featuring the unforgettable.
My heart fills up with happiness. Every time I see corpses pierced clean through with shafts of spears.
The enigmatic.
I tell you, my greatest joy is just to hear the groans of help me, from the fallen wounded.
And the haunting ballad.
I'll turn their heads into a mush of brains mixed with links of mail. Lyre solo!
Also featuring all his other best ever lyrics. I'm pleased when I see suffering. It's far, far better for you to die in battle than to lose and to live. And don't feel sorry for a peasant if you see him break a limb. Buy it now before Bertrand gives up and becomes a monk.
Listen, kiddo, you were dreadful. Just dreadful.
How dare you!
When you become a monk, I hope you take a vow of silence.
That Simon Cowell is so nasty and horrible. I must write a song about him. Simon Cowell, your trousers are too high and everybody prefers Cheryl.
War provided the inspiration
Now, we'll let Hunt Emerson chime in on this event. You can. But see, what is there? Can I believe my eyes? Better have. Well, okay, it's a bit over dramatic, but I think I saw a human man holding his head like a ladder. See my despair! Yikes! I am Bertrand de Born, noble, handsome, brave, talented troubadour, admired by all. I encourage a young king to rebel against his father, Henry II of England. I caused a fatal rift between them, so my head is riven from my body. I have to carry it around like a pudding. Oh, come on, Dante, I haven't gone on forever. Strictly speaking, I have, but you know what I mean. Master, I saw someone else down there at night. Not obliged to count every soul here, you know. Don't forget you have an appointment with her ladyship. Oh, yeah, Beatrice. Because I cut the bonds, those so join, I bear my head cut off this life source, which is back there, lass. It's trunk. Here you see perfect contra-posse. Concept contra-posse is a shorthand for expressing the principle that governs the relationship between what the sinner does in life, what the sinner experiences in afterlife. While the word contrappossio has become a commonplace of Dante criticism sprinkled liberally about, it's important to recognize that Dante uses it only this once. It's kind of a curious fact there. Scripturally, this Boja is grounded in the idea that unity is good and division is evil. Concord is good and discord is evil. This is a concept that undergirds the Comedia's first biblical Canto Inferno 6, finally expressed the biblical story of the Tower of Babel, where the punishment for human hubris is to divide it linguistically and politically. This is a concept emphatically guided thinking Dante's political treatise Monarchia, where the need to justify a single ruler leads to the explanation that what can be done by one is better done by one than many. From this principle, Dante derives another principle, namely, for something to be done by one is good, whereas done by many is evil. Proceeding to larger and larger conclusions, Dante goes on to align oneness with goodness and multiplicity. This polarity established in the Monarchia between the one and the many finally allows Dante to achieve the definition of sin as nothing but the disparagement of the one and a consequent aggression towards the many. Hostility towards multiplicity that we see in the Monarchia forms a canto like Inferno 28. The media as a whole, however, balances this Neoplatonic teaching of unity with Dante's Aristotelian conviction the value of multiplicity is discussed in her book, The Undivine Comedy. And just have to mention here, well, I don't have to, but I will, that you can get this little it's a bed sheet, wall tapestry. Okay, call it a wall tapestry, call it a wall hanging, call it a new centerpiece of your decor. Or just don't call it at all, I think. Anyway, you can actually get a wall tapestry or whatever it is with this image of Bertrand de Born carrying his head. If you don't want it that way, you can get it like this pillow right here. And tapestry is $45.44. And I don't know how much the pillow is, but really interested, you can go ahead and get on this website here and find out. So, now, also, now at the end of the canto, I have to mention the repercussion of Dante in modern times. Essentially, the fact that this canto, as you can imagine, makes some people uneasy because you got Mohammed in it being punished in hell, and the explanation is that taking on the idea of St. John Damascene, some other church fathers, and medieval idea in general, Islam was not recognized necessarily by some people as Islam, Dante, but as basically a Christian heresy and a division among Christendom or Christian nation caused by Muhammad. He ends up in hell in this area. Well, it makes people uneasy, and some people that you may not expect uneasy. This is a little article I'm going to read to you, most of it, and the title is "My Fight to Stop the Chinese Censors Sanitizing Dante," and it's from Spectator. And see the author there. You may want to look this up. Here's the URL that you can do that. My book on Dante Alighieri is due to come out in Chinese translation later this year. First, I had to consent to sizable cuts, even by the standards of other authoritarian states. Beijing censors struck me as overzealous. It seems odd that the medieval Latin Italian poet caused such unease among modern-day totalitarians. It is kind of odd, isn't it? And he's speaking spiritual truths, I think, is part of their uneasiness. The sanitized Chinese communist version of my book does sit well with the 700th anniversary of Dante's death in 1321. In the end, I withheld permission. Cuts were the work of Beijing's blandly named Institute for World Religions. The Institute undertakes book cleansing operations on behalf of the state. No book can be published legally in China today without being vetted. In their solemn appraisal, censors insisted that all references to Islam be removed. Why? Dante inflicts a punishment So grotesque on the Prophet Mohammed, Canto 28, and the Inferno, Muslims might well protest. The Prophet's body is split from end to end, so his entrails dangle out on his excrement. He is punished as a sower of discord. Beijing is not known to be tolerant of the Chinese 22 million strong Muslim minority. Why then were the censors so unhappy with my 20 pages on Dante's less than flattering portrayal of Islam? The reason is that even hostile interpretations of Islam are discouraged today in Xi Jinping's China. Thus, the censors removed from my color plate illustration of Giovanni Baldina's 15th century fresco, Muhammad's graphic mortification by a bat-winged devil creature. Last Judgment fresco, inspired by Dante, continues a tradition of medieval allegorical books, poems, which portrayed Muslims as renegades from Christianity. In 2002, alarmingly, there's an Islamist plot to blow up the Bologna Cathedral, where fresco is displayed. Muhammad's visible summary of Dante is certain gruesome. Yet Chinese Dante scholars and translators, according to a Chinese friend of mine, Jean, never made much of the connection between Inferno and Islam. Now suddenly they do. Also censored 15 pages on Dante and Martin Luther. Dante is often viewed as a pioneer of Reformation, condemned a number of to hell after all. And I just might insert here, yes, you can consider him that, but I think better is consider Dante to be a firm Catholic theologically, one that's concerned with the corruption of the church. That does not necessarily make him Protestant. China, though, any talk of the proto-Lutheran transcendentals is deemed potentially harmful to morality is not permitted. Thus clear to me is why sections on the rivalry between Guelphs and Ghibellines were taken out. Yeah, I'm certain. Again, you know the Guelphs and Ghibellines were two factions in Italy, time of Dante, two main factions, I should say. And the Guelphs were the pro-papal party, of which Dante was a part. Ghibellines were pro-imperial. Remember, Dante was part of a sub-faction of Guelphs out in trouble in Florida. This was exile. Not even Dante understood why these Italian dynasties fought so bitterly for so long. Censorship intensified across the board in China after 2012 when Xi became the General Secretary of the Communist Party. Xi was shaped by the Cultural Revolution of 1966 to 76. Problem citizens shut away in reformatories and sometimes had their local boards surgically severed. Traders trapped in the ice in Canto 34 of the Inferno had no right to speak. Lucasly, internet images of Winnie the Pooh blocked in 2017 when red-shirted bears appearance to the air of that and Z. Homosexuals and others who sin against nature are consigned by Dante to the seventh circle of hell in the Inferno. Among these condemned souls is the 13th century humanist diehard Guelph Dante Latini. Latini puts an oddly dignified figure as he wanders the afterlife in penury and exile. At some level, Dante and sin is often ambiguous, many faceted in Dante. The sinner may have virtues as well as faults. However, ambiguities this sort have no place in a regime that views even many who as a hazard, knows only black and white. But Latini's name is punished in the book. My own experience of censorship was a distasteful affair that ran counter to China's vaunted transition free market. Carefully worded letter to me, the Chinese publisher apologized for the whole tedious business. Very sorry for this strange publication procedure in our country. But if the deletions demanded by the Institute of World Religions were not made, look, bizarrely, Much of what the Institute asked me to remove already exists in footnotes and annotations to the 5 Chinese language versions of Dante's Inferno currently available. So why bother? The Institute's word was final. I felt I had no choice to tell the censors where to stick their deletions. Ought to be a special place in